Rejoice, Black Myth Wukong fans, because after a year of Wukong dominating the charts and captivating our hearts, developer Game Science dropped a massive reveal for their next game, Black Myth Zhong Kui. Yeah, the second chapter in the Black Myth series is in development, but this thing has several years of cooking before Game Science's next likely smash hit gets unleashed to the world. But here, we're talking more than just everything confirmed about Black Myth Zhong Kui, as we're diving into statements from Game Science and credible leakers in the industry to unearth just how massive the Black Myth series will be, along with looking at Black Myth Wukong and the DLC that is still confirmed to be coming to that game. We've got a lot to cover here, so pound that like button and finish off this summer by indulging in Gamer Supps' brand new canned energy drinks and slick new pixel cups, and save 10% off your order by using my affiliate link provided in the description. Black Myth Zhong Kui is the next big thing coming from Game Science, and thanks to the FAQ on the developer's website, we have a few key things to go over. Now, let's talk about what kind of game Black Myth Zhong Kui will be, as Black Myth Wukong's intense action role-playing format proved to be among the most popular games in this increasingly popular genre. And unsurprisingly, Black Myth Zhong Kui is touted to follow in its older brother's footsteps. According to the FAQ, quote, "It will remain a standard single-player ARPG, following the same business model as before," end quote, and suggests that Game Science is still exploring and experimenting with the concrete differences between Wukong and Zhong Kui to help this new game extinguish itself a bit more. Now, in terms of story, the devs make it clear that this title is very early into development, with the team, quote, "not even done with the outline yet." Even so, they're determined to make sure that Wukong players feel right at home with Zhong Kui. Speaking of Zhong Kui, in the classic tale of this Chinese folklore anti-hero, Zhong Kui is a powerful demon-quelling figure who became a symbol of protection against hostile spirits and misfortune. Often depicted as a bearded man with an intimidating face and donning a scholar's robe, it looks like Game Science really nailed the look of this figure here, just as they did with Wukong. Using a sword, Zhong Kui is typically surrounded by demons and ghosts that he has captured or enslaved, which will have some really fun implications on the gameplay here, as I can very much imagine that this title will forego Wukong's monkey transformations to make way for controlling hordes of captured ghosts and demons. We'll of course have to wait and see if this will be a game mechanic here, but since this is an essential component to Zhong Kui, it's exceedingly likely that gameplay like this will be present in the game. Now, in terms of launch platforms, Zhong Kui is expected to launch on PC, along with all mainstream console platforms, which is not a surprise. As for a release date, Game Science makes it clear that there is no release date announced, going as far as to say that this title is, quote, "little more than an empty folder." Alright, now when it comes to Black Myth Wukong, Game Science reassured fans that the story of Wukong is not over, as the developers hinted that a DLC or a sequel to the game is possible in the future, although for now, the team is focused on exploring more myths and formats, with their attention currently on Zhong Kui. This strategy allows the studio to delve into different narratives while keeping the franchise alive, and that at some point in the future, we would be graced with more Black Myth Wukong content, either in the form of DLC or potentially in a full-blown sequel. While we don't have anything concrete to go over regarding what the future content of Wukong's return will be like, it's worth going over a statement made last year shortly after Black Myth Wukong released that hints at what the future of Wukong may have in store for us. Just a few short weeks after Black Myth Wukong released, Game Science investor Hero Games confirmed that plans were in motion to release an Elden Ring-style expansion for Black Myth Wukong before more Black Myth games are released. According to Daniel Wu of Hero Games back in early September 2024, quote, "Game Science is working on an expansion to Wukong, which will give it a chance to monetize the game a second time. 2022's Elden Ring, a title with similar playstyle and design, has shown how the release of an expansion, this year's Shadow of the Erdtree, can spur a fresh flurry of sales for the original." Okay. While this comment from last year suggested that Game Science at that time was interested in releasing a substantial piece of DLC before the next Black Myth game releases, we know that presently Game Science is shifting their priorities to completing their next game, Black Myth Zhong Kui, before returning to Wukong. Now, while Daniel Wu nor Game Science have come forward to specify what this paid DLC would be, we do have an insider with a great track record regarding Black Myth Wukong information who had a bit to share with us regarding such DLC content that could hit the game. All of this stems from one individual on Twitter and Discord at Ignis the Wise, where last year, this Chinese video game insider shared rather a lot of information over on his Discord server. We have gone over Ignis the Wise's posts at length when covering Black Myth Wukong leading up to its launch, and well, that's because this user accurately leaked many features relating to the game months before the game dropped, pertaining to the number of boss fights and enemies in the game, other features like New Game Plus and multiple endings within the title, along with accurate info on trailer drops, pre-order information, to when the review embargo would lift, and a lot more. While Ignis has been very accurate with these things, his track record isn't 100% reliable, as he mentioned a demo would be released before the game dropped and more, so like I said earlier, take this with a grain of salt, people. These leaks also didn't account for the shift in priorities Game Science has made, as the developer's focus for now is squarely on Black Myth Zhong Kui at the moment. Anyway, I apologize for the delay, so let's get into his post here that he made on September 2nd, 2024, where he claimed that Game Science was aiming to launch 2 DLCs for Black Myth Wukong before they release their next game, titled Black Myth Jiangziya. Again, now we know their next title to be Black Myth Zhong Kui. In addition, he claimed that Black Myth Wukong was meant to have 13 chapters, but the studio condensed all that into 6 chapters because of the budget. We'll get into more information that he mentioned over on his Discord page in a minute, but first, we gotta go over that number here. 2 DLCs? Now, I'm not sure if last December's update with the boss rush modes are part of these 2 supposed DLCs, but if this turns out to be true, I'm really curious to see what kind of content we'll see hit Black Myth Wukong in the future. While I maintain that this game is not a Souls-like game, even though it does share some similarities with the genre, I wouldn't be surprised if we get some DLC that expanded on the game world, added several new bosses, new transformations and spells, and perhaps some weapons like many Souls-likes have done in their DLCs. Expecting something as large as Elden Ring's Shadow of the Erdtree may be pushing it here, in my humble opinion, but perhaps something more akin to Bloodborne's The Old Hunters DLC, where that game added 3 unique areas, a few bosses, amazing bosses mind you, and some unique weapons. Heck, even something similar to Dark Souls 3's DLCs could be something quite feasible for Black Myth Wukong, but I'm getting ahead of myself a bit here, because this information found from Ignis's Discord reveals some audio files that may shed light as to what kind of DLCs we may end up getting with the game in the future. On Ignis's Discord, he wrote that audio files were found for Buddha and Jade Emperor, and further notes that future DLCs could feature a boss fight or playable Bull King, of whom is a major antagonist in Journey to the West that would be a real treat to see playable in an upcoming DLC. Ignis also relayed that Buddha and Jade Emperor were all likely candidates to be featured in future content within Black Myth Wukong. These characters mentioned all contain incredibly rich stories that are fundamental pillars within Chinese mythology that could be further explored in a DLC, or even a sequel to Black Myth Wukong after Zhong Kui releases, and I honestly really hope to see these figures, especially a playable Bull King and Jade Emperor, as I think this title's artistic approach to its characters and levels could appropriately host them when woven into the story. If I were to have a gripe about Black Myth Wukong, a minor one at that, and with no spoilers mind you, it is that I think the game sometimes rapidly introduces certain key figures a bit too abruptly with not much time in the spotlight before the story quickly moves on to the next beat. I completely understand why a game like this takes the pace that it does, seeing as Journey to the West is an incredibly vast novel that spans more characters and moments than most multi-season TV shows have these days, so having DLC dedicated to certain characters to give them more of a spotlight would be a huge win in my book and would further flesh out and connect to the already impressive story that is contained within Black Myth Wukong. I hope Game Science can address this with Black Myth Zhong Kui, but really, it's a very minor criticism. Definitely share with me your thoughts on this in the comments below, as I really do believe that this kind of DLC or Wukong sequel, one that is more focused on specific characters and moments, would be really great to see. An expansion to Wukong does make sense, seeing as Game Science initially planned the title to contain 13 chapters, and while much of the game's content outlined by these chapters were likely featured in the resulting 6 chapters that we currently have in the final game, additional DLC or proper sequel sequestered to the many characters and moments that didn't make it into this title could likely have been left over for future releases. As for when we may expect an announcement for the DLC projects, Ignis wrote that we could see an announcement in summer of next year, which happens to be this year, around the 1-year anniversary of Black Myth Wukong. And interestingly, we did get an announcement, except it was for their next game, Black Myth Zhong Kui, with the promise that this wouldn't be the end of Wukong, as the team made it clear that they would continue making content for Wukong, whether it be DLC or in a proper sequel, after focusing on Zhong Kui. Fascinating stuff, and I definitely see some DLC hitting the game at some point, seeing as this game has made a boatload of cash, and the game's FAQ leaves open the possibility for DLC in the future. Now, for the future of Black Myth games, we know that Black Myth Zhong Kui was just announced, but Game Science producer Feng Ji, in an interview with IGN China back in 2020, claimed that he was interested in having a trilogy of Black Myth games, with Black Myth Wukong being the first title of the bunch. Earlier last summer, Ignis reported that 2 trademarks for future Black Myth games were filed in China, with 2 of them being Black Myth Jiangziya and the other being Black Myth Zhong Kui. According to Ignis's reporting, Black Myth Jiangziya, a game detailing the Chinese military general who helped overthrow the Shang dynasty in ancient China, was going to be the next Black Myth game, with Ignis also reporting that Chinese deity Nurja, also known as the Third Lotus Prince, would have some sort of presence in the second Black Myth game. Obviously, we know that instead of Jiangziya, Game Science went with Zhong Kui as the second Black Myth title. As Game Science has already done with Black Myth Wukong by exposing ancient Chinese culture to a global audience through their video game, I have utmost confidence that they will do Zhong Kui justice here. This title will feature the Taoist deity of Chinese mythology of the same name, known to be the vanquisher of ghosts and evil beings in a game that would tap into the rich history, figures, and creatures within this nation's rich stories and mythology. This entire trilogy, once complete, will outline 3 key pillars within Chinese folklore and legends, all presenting some of the nation's most treasured history and tales, all wrapped up in 3 unique video games that contain state-of-the-art graphics, gameplay, and unique storytelling. As we've seen with Black Myth Wukong, the game is clearly a hit, and with DLC or a sequel confirmed to hit Wukong and flesh that universe out a bit more, the quality of these future Black Myth games is undeniably going to be quite solid. With a studio whose dedication to promoting more about Chinese mythology and ancient Chinese tradition to a world largely not familiar to it, and with a studio proven to create a mighty fine, polished, and most importantly, fun video game in Black Myth Wukong, the future of not only Wukong, but of Black Myth games like Zhong Kui is incredibly promising. It's an exciting time to be a Black Myth fan, but now we gotta wait. Let's give Game Science all the time they need to craft another fantastic game, this time for Zhong Kui, and perhaps over the next several years, we'll learn more about what exactly the team has in store for us with their revisit to Wukong. It's going to be a long journey ahead, but the long wait will undoubtedly pay off big time in the years ahead. Got nothing else for ya. If you're a fan of Greek mythology, join me over in this video as we cover the latest big updates hitting the God of War series. And I look forward to seeing you all real soon in the next one.